It's where the best people live, right, Ryan? So let me start off out on the East Coast. David, do you want to kind of give us, a minute on who you are, your brokerage, kind of how long you've been in real estate?
Yeah, sure. So thanks for having me. I've been a real estate investor since 2003. Kind of did it backwards. So I started investing, then I started a property management company, then I started a real estate brokerage. So kind of the opposite trend that I think most people do. So I've been in this for a while. Always tried to stay up with technology. I think it's important. Huge for leverage. So that's just kind of where we've been, how I've always started it, and if you could make your day more efficient, you can get more done, or you can have more days to yourself. So, anything I can do to move faster, quicker, our motto is bigger, better, faster. So that's kind of how we try and roll. So
Sound like you're in Texas. Ryan, let's go
yeah.
let's go with you. I know you're in Wichita, but tell us a little bit about your business, Ryan. And
Yeah,
by the way, all three of our panelists today are all crypto certified agents. They've been in and around Web3. They've dealt with the metaverse. So three really sharp kind of Web3 realtors who actually happen to sell a lot of houses. So it's what I call the perfect panel. Ryan, go ahead.
yeah, my story's not much different than David. I actually started out as an investor back in '03. I was actually on the banking side, then got into investing in real estate heavily, and then ended up kind of falling into the agent side in 2011, so about 11 years ago. And I've kind of cut my teeth and made a name for myself by being ahead of the curve and just really providing value to clients that a lot of agents don't, just from experiences, me figuring things out the hard way a lot of the way. So I kind of pass those on. And I did very well with social media for a long time doing that. And then I kind of stumbled into the Web3 and blockchain and crypto world, and that grabbed my attention. And I've been full steam ahead on that and getting certified, learning the business and how it's applying to real estate. And seems like each day I learn a new way, better way that blockchain's going to affect real estate. So really excited to be here and spending some time with some other agents that are in the business.
Nick, we'll pick on you next out on the West Coast.
Yep.
Tell everybody a little bit about yourself and your brokerage.
Sure. Definitely my story is different than David and Ryan's in that I'm with Remax Top Producers, haven't been in real estate selling it for as long. I'm a newer agent, so give that perspective. Nonetheless, my experience is in real estate, bought my first place in '09, then 2014, and then leveraged the equity to get into a home in 2020. So again, haven't sold it as long as those two. Nonetheless, I've had various experiences. And then similar to Ryan in that stumbled upon it. I actually stumbled upon it from Nick Bailey talking about it. He's the CEO of Remax. He was talking about Propy. And I was like, what's that about? So I dug into that and jumped 2 feet in, and here I am working actually on a transaction as we speak in Northern California, being a mentor for another agent to facilitate leveraging the crypto to get into a home.
I just saw Nick down in San Antonio about a month ago. So we've got a good cross section of realtors, crypto certified agents. So let's start, kind of briefly. What's the most interesting to me is the market. And, we try to get what frustrates me about realtors is they get anecdotal. They'll say, oh, I've got so many agents who are just having so many issues. Well, what the hell does that mean? I mean, is absorption rate up? How much is it up? What are we looking at? We know rates are up. When the market slowed down, are we back to normal? David, I'll start with you. How's it looking up in Connecticut? Is the sky really falling, or are we still cooking along pretty good up there?
No, I mean we're still moving. It's not 60 offers in 3 days, which is it's kind of nice. We're still seeing pretty quick absorption rates. I think for the majority of the properties are under deposit within the first two to 3 weeks, generally at list price. I think the biggest difference now though is sellers are able to do inspections and to not have to waive appraisals and not have to be all cash offers. So it is kind of interesting. There's a lot of newer agents that have been in the market for 2 or 3 years that have never done an FHA loan. So now we have to, walk them through the appraisal process and what that looks like. It's different from the home inspection. So, there's a lot of differences there, but I mean, it's still pretty fast. It's still pretty much a seller's market. I don't think that I would say, we're probably flatlined a little bit. There are still things that are selling over list. There's still some properties that every day you kind of scratch your head and wonder how they got that price for it. But We have a serious lack of inventory here as well. I was joking, Adam, with you a little before. We're kind of peaked right between New York and Boston. We have our own little growth going on as well. So, we're in a still pretty much sweet spot here.
Yeah, it's funny. The last 3 years are the only time in my 25 years of real estate where every market, every demographic was the same market. In a normal real estate market, you have sections that are really facing headwinds. Might have been luxury, or might have been investment, or might have been the Southeast where California was still growing. It's not all supposed to be at the same pace. Tuscaloosa is not supposed to have the same exact market as San Francisco and vice versa. Like, you're supposed to have niches and segments, and realtors are supposed to be able to work certain segments: short sale, REO, luxury. In this last market, everybody can sell everything. And so I was talking to a broker today who 65% of her, she's a big EXP broker in Colorado, 65% of her agents have been in the business for 3 years or less. And she's concerned that they think that what the last 3 years was normal. So Ryan, I'll ask you next. You've been in the business a while. Looks like you kind of even survived the downturn, the first one. What is it for you? Is it setting seller expectations? Is it just right sizing business in terms of costs? Like, how do you approach in a market where there's a lot of uncertainty?
Yeah, it's very much the same. Like you said, the 3 years, this is not typical. It's been nuts. I mean, the Midwest is usually the steady Eddie. We normally don't get too high, we don't get low, but it's been a complete seller's market for the last 3 years. Really, I personally think it's been that way and headed that way for roughly 5-6 years, but the last 3 years has been nuts. There's just been no inventory, and that's starting to slow down a little bit. The raising of rates kind of freaked everybody out, so that kind of paused. I wouldn't call it pause, but slowed way down. And now we're cranking back up again. Now people have kind of realized, rates are going up. I still want to buy a house. I still want to sell a house. So it's taken back off again, and it's just because there's no supply. We have no supply. Right. And that's not changing for the lower price points. That's not changing. They're not building enough inventory. So it's very interesting because, like David was saying, is, as a new agent, you come in, it's gangbusters. You don't have to do anything. I've invested tens of thousands of dollars in marketing to figure out how to better market my sellers' properties. And for the last 3 years, I threw all that out the window. It didn't even matter. Well, we're getting back to that now where the more experienced agents that have tools and know the business are gaining more ground again, because you've got to do a little bit better job. People are becoming more wise with the rates being up and are more cautious about what's going on with the market. So it's good for us experienced agents, and it's good for newer agents too, but they're definitely going to have to work a little bit harder. And for some of them, it won't be a problem. For some of them, they won't stay in the business, but it's the same thing we've seen in years past.
So Nick, where is Monrovia in California? What part of the state is that in?
Think of Pasadena.
Okay, so you're in LA.
Yep.
So the rest of us would call it LA. I know everybody in LA thinks they live in some small town. The rest of us think of it as LA.
Yep.
Which, by the way, LA, is always the pendulum that swings the fastest. If we're going to go into a bad market, they feel it first. If we go into a great market, they have ridiculous, explosion and lack of absorption rates. What's it like out there, in LA? I mean, Monrovia, Pasadena, is this is the thing that I don't understand. All the experts are slashing, real estate's going to slow down. Real estate's going to slow down. You can see the layoffs in some of the bigger brokerages, but I don't see any data that says, oh, there's just a glutton of surplus that's about to hit the ground. I don't see where builders have even gotten caught up to what they've sold. Nick, help me explain to me, beyond the rates, what has really changed in the market with data that would make me think that we're going to have a massive slowdown?
Well, I don't know that massive should be an adjective to describe it.
Never.
I feel like the best analogy is you're going 90 on the highway and now we're going 75.
Yeah.
Right. It's like we're still going fast. Things are still moving. If it's priced right and if it's in a desirable location, it's not sitting on the market for 2 months. It's still going within a week or two. With that said, when we talk about LA generally, but more specifically some of these outer suburbs, those are starting to turn in terms of you're seeing price reductions. 10,000, even 50,000 isn't unheard of in those farther suburbs. So I think the other interesting thing too is it takes buyers shorter amounts of time to transition because they're hopeful of what quote unquote deal they think they'll be able to get, right? Their hope is in the future. Sellers are saying, but my neighbor just sold for 100 grand over list price just 4 months ago. It's like, that was 4 months ago. So
Yeah.
I think the reality is it takes sellers a longer time to transition. And sometimes you deal with those sellers that are stuck in the past to say, no, I want to go on for that price. And I think that's the reality of a lot of the price reductions we are seeing. I say a lot. In our area, we're seeing in around 40% have seen price reductions. And again, I think that is just taking time for sellers to cope with what they're able to get and not able to get, specifically when they're not in as desirable of a location and their condition is not in as good of condition. Because like these guys said, homes were flying off the shelves 5, 6, 7 months ago. You didn't have to market it, right? People said, what? It's how many square feet? How many beds? Done.
Mhm.
So people are a little bit more selective, I think it's fair to say, but also due to rates, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing I was going to say is you could say to that, yeah, your seller sold it 4 months ago for X amount, but he also had a buyer that might have been payment conscious who got it in at, 2.9, whatever it might have been. And therefore there's some things in life that just aren't fair. And the fact that if you're buying right now and you didn't walk in 4 or 5 months ago with those great rates, that's just bad timing. Like there are certain things in life that aren't fair. And typically when rates go up, prices go down. But the issue is with the lack of supply, the prices haven't correlated with the rates. And so, but when you have the Fed rate as low as we did for as long as we did, we all knew it was coming. We were walking a high wire because you keep it that Fed rate that low, you've got no ability to stimulate the economy if need be. So you guys all know that better than me. David, I know you took the call from your car. You're at a charity event, are you?
Yeah. Every year we sponsor. So New Haven is a very, very diverse city. We have some of the richest real estate in Connecticut here, and also some of the poorest. And so some people get lost in the shuffle. So every year, we've been doing this for about the last 6 years. We have through our charity, Nutmeg Inc. We collect money and school supplies for local charities. One of the big groups is actually it's grandmothers. I always say it wrong. It's grandparents on the move. And there's a significant number of grandparents that are taking care of their grandchildren without the legal custody, so they don't get a lot of the state benefits and the aid that they get. So it's big for them. A lot of them are on fixed income. Some of them can't drive, and they have to figure out how to get their kids to and from practice or their grandchildren. So that was a charity that we really picked up the last year or so, and I've really tried to help sponsor and just make awareness for that, through whatever means we can.
Excellent. Well, thanks for joining us. I know you're busy. So Nick, let me switch gears. I would be remiss if I didn't crowbar in some crypto and blockchain discussion, as we all tend to geek out on. I know in California, crypto, the data would say that people are twice as likely to do a deal either leveraging or using crypto in California than other parts of the country. How have you used your crypto certification in your marketing? I'm going to ask you this next, Ryan, because I know, Ryan, you've got a background in marketing. What have you guys done specifically to attract like-minded buyers and sellers, or have you?
Yeah, I've created a marketing calendar, if you will. So I'm doing it once a week, at least, if not even twice a week, but at least the once, and just putting it on all channels. I've had and been able to be fortunate to be hosted on a couple different podcasts where crypto comes into the equation, and it's pulling that content to just share it, right? Sharing it because create more clarity. I think because it's such a new space, there's a lot of uncertainty about it, which creates a lot of walls initially. It's like, well, no, I don't want that. And I think an interesting one, and this came from Propy, I think just the other week, a good analogy is it's no different than you going to the airport getting pesos because you're going to Cabo, right? It's just a little bit different space, of course, and new. Nonetheless, it's still a currency. At the end of the day, you're still purchasing it. And I think the often oversight people forget is it's virtually like a cash transaction. So it's relatively easy. With that being said, you have so many cryptocurrencies out there, right? And I think that's where understandably some of the confusion and worrisome comes from, to say, hold on, what's legit? I've heard of Bitcoin, but I haven't heard of USDD. What's USDD?
Yeah.
Right. So, but yeah, once a week at least, just to keep pushing it, keep dripping it, keep reminding people of it.
Ryan, what are you doing with your crypto certification to attract like-minded buyers and sellers there in Kansas?
Yeah, I am completely bullish on the blockchain technology. That when I discovered what was going on with blockchain, which was really kind of the end of last year, and how it was actually attaching itself and streamlining some of the stuff within real estate, I completely pivoted my business, especially my marketing. That I still do a lot of my standard marketing, social media stuff like that I've done, but at least 50% of it, if not more now, is blockchain or crypto based, even somewhat Web3 based, because without a doubt, I believe that is where everything's headed. And I don't think that's a revelation. I think a lot of people realize that now. In the Midwest, I think it's a lot less known than in California, but we're even seeing some builders in my area now starting to market that they're open to buying, selling their homes. I'll build you a home, pay me in crypto. It's limited, but we're seeing those things come up. So for me, I've been successful several times in my life in business by getting ahead of everything, or getting ahead of things like this, social media, crypto, stuff like that, before other agents. And it's just specifically because it's change. Most people don't like change. Agents are doing stuff that works for them. I like to be ahead of that curve. And I think this is the biggest curve that I've seen in my real estate career. So I'm putting it out there on every social media and YouTube channel and talking about it every chance I get with other agents.
Yeah.
And sellers.
What's the environment up in New Haven, David? I know it's a pretty educated town. Is it kind of like LA and Florida where everyone's fluent with crypto, or are you still kind of working through that like we are here in the Midwest?
Absolutely not. We are. I mean, we may be the last to do anything. I think we're like the when hell freezes over state, if you will. So it's very new, and I think a lot of it too is just the recent bad press about it as well. With some of the DeFi programs, and I've been trying to explain to people, the differences between the currency and the blockchain, and how they kind of work and relate. And so that's kind of been one of the things that people just don't understand. Like, they just hear the DeFi and they hear about some of these lenders going under, and they can't wrap their head around it. It's like, well, the same thing happened in the real estate market years ago. The crypto guys just didn't learn, but there's such a technology and a power behind it. Just the way, and real estate is a lot of repeat patterns where these smart contracts could be huge. I mean, just going through, I mean, I see a lot of Facebook posts about agents complaining about buyer agents not dropping off deposit checks in a timely manner, but now they still have the executed contract. And the smart contracts can eliminate all that. You put up the deposit, all these things just synchronize and they go. Same thing with the blockchains for title searches. I mean, it just makes things faster, smoother, easier, and it makes it fully transparent, which, I think that's probably the biggest headache that everybody has in real estate is communication between all parties. And the blockchain being a trustless system can push that, but we're so slow in Connecticut to move. I mean, we're just, we're dinosaurs here. We're struggling. I mean, some attorneys still don't send emails. Zoom calls, forget about it. I mean, it'll be a while before we get there.
It's funny. I think real estate is fragmented and the data is custodialized by just all the parties that kind of participate in their own self-interest. And it's going to take an interesting push for the homeowner to demand the transparency they deserve, because real estate is it's Byzantine by design. That's why we have to have all these parties that get involved in the deal. I've also found it interesting that a lot of people have said, in the last 12, 13, 14 weeks, see, told you that crypto thing, should it? And it's a little bit like that guy for the last 6 years, like, told you Tom Brady was washed up. Well, I mean, yeah, once or twice you might be right, but when it rebounds, I don't hear you. If you just keep saying things are going to hit, bottoms, a stop clock is, right twice a day. Like, you're going to get a few times where you might be right, but we don't hear you when it comes back. And I feel like the timing with that in the market has created a challenge that I don't see as there. If you look at the people using crypto and using blockchain in 2022 versus 2021, it's up significantly. So there's no data that says people have stopped using it. It's just the people that want to create a narrative to say that it's overblown or it's overrated. They kind of had their moment with, with the crypto stumbles a few weeks ago. So Nick out in California, obviously the market is still booming. You dealing anything with the metaverse or anything with NFTs out there? You doing any kind of the maybe even more fringe stuff than just your traditional blockchain and crypto?
Good question. Conversations, yes. Actual transactions, no. So definitely have partaken in a few different kind of get-togethers with other individuals, not necessarily crypto certified, but that are just interested in what is the metaverse about. We have a few different individuals in the Southern California area that host conferences and get-togethers to educate more agents and lenders and title reps in general. So, but I personally have not dealt with the NFT transaction yet, or anything pertaining to the metaverse specifically yet. So.
Yeah, I think the biggest business in Web3 is having conferences. I get one about once a week in my email.
Yeah.
Some of them said, "We'll let you come speak if you pay us." I said, "I think you got this wrong. You got to pay us to come speak." I don't know where we got it backwards. Ryan, I'll ask you a simple question that I always. How do you, Ryan, when you're talking to people who don't understand crypto and blockchain, they're always synonymous. They're two completely different things. You know,
Yes.
one can't have one without the other, but the other one is not dependent on the other. I mean, obviously, blockchain is not dependent on any sort of cryptocurrency. How do you try to delineate to people that cryptocurrency has some gray area? It's no different than Nick said. It's just a speculation of currency, which Columbus and his boys did it on the Nina and the Santa Maria. That's been around forever. But this blockchain thing is actually pretty cool. How do you walk people that are kind of newbies? How do you walk them through that?
I try not to get too detailed with them. I just tell them, hey, there's this technology called a blockchain. Maybe you've heard of it, maybe you haven't. It's very transparent, it's very secure, and it's accessible from almost anybody around the world as long as they have an internet connection. And normally you get that blank stare, and I say, well, you've heard of cryptocurrency, right? And they're like, yeah. And I said, do you understand that there's trillions of dollars invested in cryptocurrency? And obviously, for people to put trillions of dollars into cryptocurrency, they must be pretty confident in that it's going to be around, because you can't hold it. It's not tangible. Well, that blockchain, smart contracts blockchain, is the technology that's providing that confidence for people to put this abundance amount of money into cryptocurrency. So if people feel a currency, feel enough confidence with a currency to put money into a currency like that, that blockchain, obviously that technology could affect a lot of other things, like say real estate. And then I start walking them down the path that David was just mentioning a minute ago with, just we've been doing real estate the same way for a long time. It works. People trust it, but it's pretty archaic and can be, improved quite a bit. And I think blockchain being transparent, being secure, being accessible, I mean, it's just too hard to ignore. So usually at that point, kind of depending on the person, and I geek out about it. So I get excited. I try to pay attention to their reaction. If they're looking off over my shoulder already, I'm like, okay, let's talk about your house. Or, if they're engaged, then, maybe I might start talking about NFTs, but usually that doesn't happen. That normally will throw people off. So I'm excited about the blockchain technology, period. And to me, it's a no-brainer. Yeah. So I try to keep it simple as much as possible without geeking out and freaking them out.
Yeah, I think the most under realized aspect for blockchain is real smart contracts. We've had the term smart contracts in real estate for a long time. They weren't smart contracts. But now, to your point, David, where if you put a deposit down, it actually initiates a real smart contract. I think that's where real estate has we're in its infancy, because a contract without a down payment isn't a contract. That's just a piece of paper you signed. It's not been executed in terms of both parties mutually agreeing and accepting those funds. And that's where real estate in general, I think, is its biggest issue. I once bought a house, and I've told this story before, where I said, I don't really love the price. And the realtor says, don't worry about it. Sign the offer. We'll get him an inspection. And so it's really, real estate needs to kind of move into smart contracts and trustless, like you said, David, trustless environments where both parties are transparent with each other. So, David, That wasn't a question. That was just a statement. I'm sorry. So
That's
David,
all right. I was gonna-
I like that you said trustless earlier. Have you seen anyone yet really putting real smart contracts into real estate? And if so, what? And if not, what do you think the first pieces of real estate we'll see that in?
We're already starting to see this, through one of the Propy webinars I was on, and just kind of following some things around. The biggest space right now is on these limited partnerships. And I think, it's making real estate and investing accessible to everybody, and it's not just the blockchain, it's all this technology that came with it, like the know your customer or the KYC for some lay people. It's a lot of those things where, I have a lot of investment vehicles. I'm a limited partner in them. So someone else's investment that they needed to raise money for, and it's a pain in the neck process. I mean, they probably spend, at least 2 to 3% of the funds, the capital they raise in legal fees and documents and attorneys and background checks and transparency. So, starting to see a lot of it there where they could make this stuff just kind of happen, where you pass the KYC, now you get to the next phase of it. So, really in those aspects, that's huge. People can now begin to invest with $100 in own real estate. And that's where that NFT comes in, that you kind of mentioned before. So, it really starts to get exciting, and it's not just for millionaires, right? Like we kind of talking about it. You don't have to buy a whole Bitcoin. I don't even know, was Bitcoin go to 9 or 10 decimals? You could literally buy $1 worth of Bitcoin, and so the investment vehicles will open that up to people, because the attorney's fees for me to be a limited partner are so astronomical that they have to have minimums. So you have to have a minimum for someone to invest in real estate. Once these smart contracts get going, that'll start to really die it down. And I think really the attorneys are going to have to be the ones that understand that. I think at this point, they're the gatekeepers. I think the attorneys have to start to be able to understand it a little bit. They have to be able to give their blessing that these are okay, that these contracts are real, that they're recognized, that they're legitimate. I think that's really going to be the gatekeeper, because anytime anyone gets in trouble, no matter what it is, they go to an attorney. They ask the attorney if things are legal, if things are right, how to do it. Even in Connecticut, we have standard real estate contracts, and on the bottom it says, this contract is approved by the Connecticut Association of Realtors, and people always want to have their attorneys review that contract, right? So, it's that's going to be that gatekeeper. It's really going to be the trust in the system, and just a good publicity, and more people doing it and talking about it, being comfortable with it.
Yeah. Imagine people in Northeast being litigious, David. I never would have
Right.
thought that. So, hey, let's, I know we got to wrap it up in 1 minute. What I'd like you guys to do, if you don't mind, is anybody watching this live or when they watch this on YouTube, they want to reach out to you and they want to interact with you, pick your brain, maybe give you a referral. How would they get a hold of you? Nick, I'll start with you.
Yep. You can find me on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, handles @RealGump. Think of Forrest Gump, 365. So @RealGump, and that's the same for YouTube, Instagram, Nick Gumpert, for the LinkedIn world and Facebook world. So you can find me on many social media channels, just not quite all of them.
Ryan, are you that easy to find?
Yeah, you can pretty much find me at Ryan Russ Real Estate on all the major social media channels, website. If you just look for Ryan Russ Real Estate, I'm all over. I do most of my interaction probably on Instagram and Facebook as far as communication back and forth. But obviously, if you find me at Ryan Russ Real Estate, you'll have my phone number, my email, all that. So I work nonstop like most agents, so I'm usually available or can get back to you pretty quick. So,
David, why don't you wrap it up for us? Where would people find you?
Yeah, any way that's accessible through my cell phone. So, you can just kind of Google me. I'm the only one in Connecticut. I'll show up. I got a couple different businesses, so if my name pops up under something else, it's the right guy. And if you're an in-person guy, the local watering hole is usually a good place. But David Candelora, you could reach out through Facebook. I'm not too big on Instagram, Facebook, or call, text, email. That's usually the best way to find me.
Great. Well, listen, guys, I enjoyed it. Best of luck to the three of you. I think you guys are going to have a great 2022, despite what everyone's saying. I think it's going to be an awesome year. So, thanks for being Propy certified. Thanks for being ambassadors. Thanks for being champions to the cause, and look forward to seeing you guys soon.
hey, thanks Good for
Appreciate it.
Bob.
Thanks.
Thanks, guys.